Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Throne of Steel based on novel. So let's start. The demon god emperor had a warm-looking gaze. His looks were really young, looking just a bit older than Long Houchen. At the very moment, he seemed like an older brother chatting with Houchen. I was really shocked that time. And that was the first time I felt that you were a threatening existence. Unfortunately, I still did not know that you were the one chosen by Austin Griffin at that time, bringing him into this world. That's until Arbau reported this information about you, along with the fact that Austin Griffin had already grown 4 heads. Then I came to realize that the one who would cause our future destruction was actually you. Long Houchen coldly remarked, "So you launched the holy war, putting the people in a terrible situation." The demon god emperor responded indifferently, "No matter how unwilling to kill you I was, your very existence threatens my race's safety, so I had no other choice. Mercifulness doesn't fit a general, especially a race's head like me. Even if Arbau was the one sheltering Austin Griffin, I would have made the same choice. For the sake of making you come here, I was forced to put on a play with Agars, but I knew long before that the holy war would show no results. It was just for the sake of consuming the human force. What a shame, unlike me, you are no ruler, and won't ever understand what a ruler has to give up on, and what he has to choose." Long Houchen declared, "If you hadn't personally put on such a play, how could we be fooled? By attracting us here with such an irresistible bait, you succeeded. To keep speaking would do no good, now do what you ought to." The demon god emperor shook his head, letting out a light sigh. "Listen to me until the end. I have no desire to kill you, but just no other choice. I want to do one last thing for you. By killing you, Austin Griffin will naturally die in his own world and my goal will be attained. I will let your comrades go so you can at least die at ease." "Majesty." On his side, Agars couldn't help but shout loudly. Long Houchen was not the only excellent person in his demon hunt squad, Bright Glimmer of Hope. In this demon hunt squad were 2 other gods chosen ones, and almost all gods chosen ones in Shingmor Dalu's history inflicted them with terrible damage. In such desperate straits, when gods chosen ones have still not completely grown, letting these enemies with unbounded potential go was the release of young humans with future endless ransa, nothing less than future calamity stored up. "Shut up." Feng Xiu's look suddenly became cold, and an incomparable aura of terror burst out from him, keeping Agars from saying the words he still had. This was an undoubtable display of the defying Devil Dragon Emperor's might. Agars, who had a pale face, lowered his head respectfully and didn't dare utter a word. Feng Xiu coldly swept a glance at Agars. "No one is to question my decisions. I accept your majesty's punishment." Agars hanged his head low. In a wave of his hand, Feng Xiu reappeared in front of Long Houchen, paying no more attention to Agars. Although he knew fully that the demon god emperor wouldn't give empty words, Long Houchen couldn't help but lose his voice. "You. Are you for real? You are willing to let my comrades go?" After learning earlier that they had fallen into this trap, Long Houchen and his comrades had already made the resolve to die. But now, the demon god emperor was suddenly declaring he was willing to let go of his comrades. This was an immeasurable pleasant surprise in his ears. "I never take back my words." Feng Xiu slowly shut his eyes as he said so. Long Houchen was unfamiliar with this demon god emperor, but the moon demon god and star demon god were extremely familiar with Feng Xiu. The star demon god Visago did not express anything, but the moon demon god Agars was in secret shock, because he knew that the demon god emperor would only show this expression when in an extreme internal conflict. Even after having followed the demon god emperor for so many years, this kind of situation happened only a few times, and it was now taking place in front of an enemy he must kill. "Boss, we want to stay with you in life as well as death." Behind Long Houchen, almost everyone from Bright Glimmer of Hope spoke these words in unison. Long Houchen suddenly broke out in anger. "Drivel. Don't tell me you think your lives are mine. From the day you became demon hunters, your lives belong to the Alliance." His body was slightly shaking, as he deeply watched the group attentively, still remember those words I told Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi. Live on, and you will have the chance to take revenge for your comrades in the future. But if you die, you won't ever have any chance. Death is not a fearful thing, but if you follow me just like that, I won't ever forgive you even from the other side, because that's the act of a coward. I will always keep watching you from an unseen world, until the day that you come back to this Moducore city. If you still recognize me as your captain, don't do foolish things. I am ordering each of you from Bright Glimmer of Light to keep living and take revenge for me in battle in a short time. Seeing his stubborn look, the eyes of the others watching him gradually became red. Everyone from Bright Glimmer of Hope unconsciously shuddered from the emotions. Right, to die was a very simple thing, but to keep living was even harder. No. Kia suddenly let out a shout close to hysteria, fiercely throwing herself on Long Houchen's embrace, but without leaving her any time to give voice, Long Houchen's hand noiselessly pinched her neck. With a light groan, Kia slowly fell limp on the ground. 2 clear drops flowed along Long Houchen's face, as the various memories starting from his encounter with Kia flashed incessantly. He remembered clearly about the first time he met Kia, as she was still a little girl. He reminisced clearly on every moment he spent with Kia. Every one of them flashed through. The happiest moments of his life were probably the times of sending off Kia, every day, during his participation in the Demon Hunter selection, pulling her hand and slowly walking on the streets. But this couldn't happen again anymore. He knew that he could convince the other members, who would righteously obey his plans, but he had no way to convince Kia, so he could only force her into a calm state first. Lowering his head and lightly kissing her forehead, then her fair cheeks, his feelings of reluctance to part were clearly visible in the eyes of all members from Bright Glimmer of Hope. Captain Lin Xin, who was long since unable to bear his tears, called out loudly. Shut up! Long Houchen shouted. He obviously knew what Lin Xin wanted to say, but he couldn't let him do that. After he managed to make the others press down their feelings with such difficulty, if they were ignited anew, he had no confidence to make everyone calmly accept the incoming tragedy. Long Houchen didn't look at the others any further, but lowered his head, directing all his last emotion to Kia in his arms. Foolish girl, how could I look at you doing such a stupid thing? Did you know? I really hope you can once again lose your memories after leaving from here. Forget about me and about all this pain. Sorry that I cannot stay by your side until growing old. Saying that, he delicately took off her the blue forget-me-not ring, flickering a dark gold color inside the Star Demon Pagoda. Long Houchen put it on Kia's finger, then softly kissed her cheek once again. With a stride forward, he handed her over to Wang Yuan. Raising his head to give another look to the group, he saw them all teary, their eyes all filled with grim sadness. Don't be sad. I already feel blessed and happy that you can all leave from here alive. Remember this, live well. From the other side, I will be waiting for you all to take revenge for me. My soul will be watching over you. I have a last request for you all, no matter what, don't let Kia take revenge impatiently. You must keep her alive, even if you have to knock her out after she awakes. Just don't let her do anything stupid. Wang Yuan accepted Kia and nodded vigorously. Even someone as strong as her was unable to bear her tears, totally speechless. To die could be an easy thing compared to living on. They really hoped to share Long Houchen's fate here, but understood deeply that Long Houchen was right. They were demon hunters, whose lives were already not their own anymore, but the Alliance's and all humanity's. They couldn't die here like that, as they were the only ones who could take revenge for Houchen in the future. Abruptly turning his head, Long Houchen didn't dare look at Kia further, afraid to be unable to repress his inner feelings any longer. Lowering his head, he murmured to himself, Sorry Hao Yue, I couldn't protect you, and had to implicate you in my dying fate. If there's a next life, I am willing to make one with you, so that we can stay good brothers this next lifetime. Saying that, he abruptly raised his head, forcibly throwing off his tears. Raising his head and shutting his eyes, he turned toward the demon god Emperor, who never stopped him from bidding his last farewells to his comrades. Your Majesty Demon God Emperor, although we are enemies, I thank you for being willing to let my comrades go. But I just have a last request that I hope you can grant me. Feng Xiu replied calmly, speak. Long Haochen showed some pride on his face, and declared loudly, I am a knight from the Night Temple, who has grown learning a knight's essence. As a knight who couldn't protect his comrades well, I must die here today, but as a knight, I hope that you could let me die in a fitting way, as I am unwilling to face a cowardly end. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you. Those simple words from Haochen's mouth were resonating with force. The heretofore extremely serene star demon god Visago couldn't help but reveal astonishment after hearing his statement. For him to have the courage to say such a thing in such desperate straits, and when facing such an irresistible enemy, he couldn't help but gain a whole new level of respect for Long Haochen. All right. The demon god emperor shouted abruptly, shutting his eyes. Two resplendent cold flames surged from these eyes, gazing at Long Haochen ardently. A deep sadness and appreciation could be seen in those eyes. This complex expression now carried a tint of resolution. You deserve to be called someone I care about. I will give you this honor, the demon god emperor said loudly, and in a flash, his figure landed 20 meters away from Long Haochen. Long Haochen placed his right fist on his chest, striking it in the middle, and showed the demon god emperor a knight salute. Thank you. I hope you will abide by your promises. Xiufeng gave Long Haochen a deep glance. If I had the choice, I'd rather hope that you wouldn't die here. But it's already late to say that. You should realize that asking to die by my hand is also a matter of terrible cruelty. I will be killing with my own hands my own. At this point, he cut his speech, becoming silent. An unnatural-looking smile then appeared on his face. There are some matters you should better not learn. I hope you can die without any regrets. Come with your strongest attack, so that I can see just what level you have finally reached. Long Haochen nodded. Right now, he didn't have any more tears falling, only strong attachment. A strong attachment of his very own. Standing here, Long Haochen didn't immediately make a move. Seemingly in a mystical state, his eyes gradually gained a grim look. The penetrating golden color of his eyes had just become pure beyond compare. A faint light fog arose around his body, shrouding him in a totally white fog. Long Haochen's aria of the goddess of light and blue rain, hibiscus of light, which were previously separated, was slowly lifted above his head, and Yating reappeared behind him. As Long Haochen's elemental fairy, in case Long Haochen died, due to her close link with him she'd hardly survive. But the current Yating didn't have any sad look, only a look of tenderness and dedication. She didn't give a single look to the demon god emperor, focusing her gaze from beginning to end on Long Haochen himself, unwilling to waste time with any other matter. Orange and green crossed in mid-air, as the gold-colored Yating became the catalyst for their fusion. A brilliance full of white heat filled with intense divine aura once again ascended from this star demon pagoda, and became one with the white fog surrounding Long Haochen's body, bursting out with intense incandescent flames. Without a doubt, the Long Haochen currently reached the greatest peak he had ever attained in his life. Even his eyes had turned into an incandescent color. The demon god Emperor Feng Xiu watched Long Haochen attentively. The look on his eyes didn't change from beginning to end. The sadness and appreciation in his eyes was pulsing from the deepest parts. Long Haochen moved, his left feet striding forward abruptly. The heavy sword grasped in his hands struck slowly. His movement looked very slow, but looking at this sword strike, even powerhouses of the Moon Demon God and Star Demon God's levels couldn't help but react in alert. Long Haochen's sword did not follow any trajectory, only full of dedicated sword intent. This was not a sword intent of terrible might, but it was impossible to dodge, harmonizing with that divine tool sword of creation and life which had already surpassed the level of an ordinary divine tool. The sword intent inside that sword of his had already risen to the peak, and that instant, he achieved a state of communion with the sword. He was his sword, and his sword was him in the meantime. His sword and he were made one in the truest meaning. Feng Xiu did not move, only calmly looking at Long Haochen as his sword slowly approached the top of his head. The interior of the whole star demon pagoda already had turned into an incandescent color due to Long Haochen's sword strike, and massive fluctuations of spiritual energy moved rhythmically in the air. All the darkness essence was actually crushed upon contact with Long Houchen's sword, and even the star demon god surrounded himself with starlight that instant, involuntarily launching his powerful aura to resist all the holy light spiritual energy contained in his sword. At Long Houchen's back appeared slowly a pure white image, the goddess of light. This sword strike looked simple, but already contained everything Long Houchen had. His divine tool, God descent, sword intent, and all his will and spiritual energy. That was his strongest state since birth, and very possibly his final attack. The demon god emperor showed a slight emotional reaction, slowly waving his right hand. His movement appeared slow, and as he moved, not the slightest elemental essence was released, giving off the feeling that he was just an all the more ordinary person, simply and unhurriedly lifting his hand. Fengxiu slowly pointed one of his fingers forward, and that finger as fair as any female's nimbly made contact with the sharp end of the sword of creation and life. But with this bit, all the incandescence instantly dispersed. No release of mighty darkness essence in the star demon pagoda followed, but just from that, Long Houchen's body shook violently. The terrifying sword intent finally flared out the next instant, but was not directed toward the demon god Emperor Xiufeng, but dispersed to all directions of the star demon pagoda. The incomparably sharp sword intent moved rhythmically all around, making all members of Bright Glimmer of Hope feel as if they had returned to the desolate hissing cavern from that time. This flare out of sword aura and sword intent gradually dispersed after a whole dozen breaths' time, and the incandescent colored brilliance gradually vanished. Fengxiu slowly withdrew his right hand, then waved his fingertip forward. Long Houchen still remained in the same position, unmoving. As if his whole person was poured into the previous sword strike, his look was still the same determined one, but appeared totally static. Fengxiu's fair fingertip leaked a drop of blood, soaked in an intense golden color. Very good, very good. Fengxiu suddenly revealed a smile, a large and hysterical smile. As he howled with laughter, the whole star demon pagoda shivered, and the moon demon god and star demon god couldn't help but stimulate their spiritual energy to defend their own bodies. But all the members from Bright Glimmer of Hope sustained its terrifying pressure, and were sent flying to the star demon pagoda's walls. That instant, Kia was awakened in Wang Yuanyuan's arms. Houchen! Right when opening her eyes, Kia immediately shouted. She saw in a glance the unmoving Long Houchen standing there, as well as the demon god emperor laughing frantically. The demon god emperor's power was just too terrifying. Even if that was just laughter, it suppressed everyone present, making them totally unable to move. Goodbye, youngster. The demon god emperor's laughter stopped suddenly, and in a wave of his hand, that drop of dark red blood wrapped in intense golden light shot toward Long Houchen like an arrow, marking his chest. In a spurt of blood, a small hole appeared on the location of Long Houchen's chest, and immediately, a bursting sound was heard, and a fist-sized bloody hole appeared around the area that had been pierced. Strangely, there was not even a single drop of blood. But a bloody hole was left in Long Houchen's chest, making it visible that his heart had disappeared. The golden foundation armor was actually of no use at all. No one was able to assist Long Houchen. The restrictions in this star demon pagoda were arranged not by the star demon god Visago, but by the joint effort of the demon god Emperor Fengxiu, the moon demon god Agaz, and the star demon god Visago. Even a supra-divine tool's power would be unable to pass through space in there. No, Kia charged forward frantically, but was unable to budge in the slightest due to the unbendable power of suppression released from the demon god Emperor's body. Seeing in person the scene of her beloved man's heart getting smashed, Kia instantly felt totally blank. As a mouthful of blood was spurted out from her mouth, she lost consciousness in Wang Yuanyuan's embrace. A blank space, full of memories. Shattering sounds resounded in Kia's brain, and bit by bit, all kinds of memories surged in Kia's mind. Are you okay? I can't speak. Bad people are chasing me, they will arrive soon. Sister, save me. It is brother, not sister. I feel their presence, they will arrive soon. They can track my scent. Go, quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late. Out of the question. As a man, I must protect you. Little sister, where are you going? I'll help you. There's no need. Let me help you, please. I will escort you home. I told you there's no need. Hey, can you escort me for a little while, please? Yeah, where do you live? 250 meters forward, then 120 meters after turning right, and finally, we'll arrive 60 meters after turning left. What's your name? My name is Long Houchen. How about you? My name is Kia. Kia, for how long are you staying in Holy City? Why are you asking this? I just want to know for how many more days I can keep sending you off. I'm just a blind girl. Is sending me off really such an important thing? I don't know. I'm not a burden for you. How could you be a burden for me? Kia, actually I am really very ugly. Seeing that I am so ugly, how could I think of you like a burden? Very ugly. Yes, very ugly. Then are you willing to keep holding my hand forever? I am willing. Let me help you. Let me go. This is our home. Caia, I promise that I will make a warm home for you. Our home. Yeah. Idiot, what are you waiting for before giving me some clothes to wear? Yeah. No peeking. Yeah. She just remembered everything, the whole time they spent together, every part of the process. And all the memories, be it before or after her amnesia, instantly merged as one. Tears were flowing from Kia's eyes. Seeing Houchen's heart destroyed, she felt as if it was her own heart that was destroyed. Her tears were mildly red-colored, and gradually turned bright red. Long Houchen's body swayed lightly, falling slowly to the ground. That strong will in his eyes didn't disappear from beginning to end. The instant he issued that challenge to the demon god emperor, he had cut the soul-sharing chain's link, and as his body toppled over, his eyes were looking at Kia's direction, and slowly closing. From Kia's point of view, his look was just as gentle. Even while closing his eyes, he seemed to be expressing his everything to Kia. There was a thin grief, but mostly encouragement, as if telling Kia to survive and live courageously. Long Houchen had just died, closing his eyes contentedly. With the promise made by the demon god emperor, his comrades would be able to leave alive from there, and this was already enough in his eyes. Trapped in such desperate straits, he was already satisfied that the others would leave alive from there. In the instant he collapsed, he came to read far too many things in Kia's eyes. He saw all kinds of things from the past, saw that coldness and warmth belonging to Kia alone. She finally recovered her memories. Long Houchen felt extremely unwilling, even at the instant of his death, he was still unwilling to see Kia in such a painful and unwilling state. So he shut his eyes, and revealed a thin smile on his face. Long Houchen's body fell heavily to the ground. Mysteriously, that penetrated area on his chest didn't leak out any blood. His whole body sank heavily in darkness, and everything instantly became distant. He only felt as if flying far in the midst of darkness, feeling very cozy, as if all his worries and duties had broken away at once. He just felt very light, heading to a direction with only endless relaxation. All the looks on the faces of the demon hunters from bright glimmer of hope became dull. They were gazing at Long Houchen's direction, unable to even let out tears. It seemed as if time had stopped perpetually on that instant. They wanted to shout, cry bitterly, yell, but were unable to let out the slightest sound. That captain who had led them unhindered over the continent through countless experiences of life or death, Long Houchen, the Saint Knight head from the Night Temple, God's chosen one, sign of light, had left them forever. Long Houchen's corpse was lying unmoving, still showing a smiling face. But it was as if he had taken away all spirit from every member of Bright Glimmer of Hope. Every single one of them had turned close to zombies on that instant. The demon god Emperor's Fengxiu's look was also lifeless, calmly looking at Long Houchen lying on the floor. From the finger he had just used, drop after drop of blood flowed and dropped to the ground. Just as it seems, he was wounded. Although he hadn't used any of his own abilities or equipment, the demon god emperor, reaching a spiritual energy of 1 million, and unequaled in the continent, got his finger wounded by Long Houchen's last sword strike. The looks of the moon demon god and star demon god also froze, but deep in their hearts, they let out deep breaths of relief. This person, Austin Griffin's blood contractor, finally died. The demon's threat, that heavenly wrath they feared beyond compare, was finally gone. In a world of black and red, an immense figure was crawling in a cave, his 6 heads all looking upwards. The surroundings were a mess in this firm cave, and he had countless bruises all over his body. His 6 heads were still looking up high, but all the eyes on all his heads leaked purple blood. His aura was fading bit by bit, while the amethyst-colored scales on him also gradually lost their luster. In the midst of unwilling howls reverberating inside a cave, his 6 heads, which up to now were held high, dropped unwillingly. All the pressure was obliterated completely in an instant. The demon hunters from Bright Glimmer of Hope fell to the ground one after another, but still dazedly remained on the ground, all their looks still gathered on this youth lying on the ground, still smiling, but without an ounce of life left. Abruptly freeing herself, Kia forced herself to stand on the ground. Her face was already empty of tears. At that moment, memories of the times that he took the enemy's attack for her one time after another echoed inside her. Her body was shaking violently in unwillingness, and her aura grew further and further in intensity in the midst of her shaking. Taking one staggering step forward after another, Kia advanced toward him, until she tumbled onto him. Her hand was lifted lightly, falling on that handsome face and touching it. He's dead, my Houchen is dead, How could you part from me like that? Kia murmured lightly, idiot, I just remembered everything about us. You are my idiot, how could you die and leave me alive? Didn't you say that you would protect me for a lifetime as my guardian knight? How could you just die like that? In a light buzz, Long Houchen's chest swayed, and a golden object came to view on the left side of the golden foundation armor. That was a small golden skull, the eternal melody, which was embedded long ago on his chest, and that Long Houchen had never been able to struggle free from. Now that he was dead, the eternal melody finally parted from him, separating from his body. As the key to the Tower of Eternity, it had no obligation to guard a dead person, so it chose to leave. Kia grabbed that golden skull almost instantly. Her body couldn't refrain from shaking, but that instant, she suddenly became stiff for a short period of time, before she threw herself on Long Houchen in loud sobs. Get lost, all of you just get lost. The demon god emperor, standing in silence, suddenly broke out in the kind of state of hysteria he had just before entering, bellowing these words frantically. The gate of the Star Demon Pagoda opened abruptly, and a gale blew suddenly and engulfed every of the demon hunters, as well as Long Houchen's corpse, expelling them outside of the Star Demon Pagoda. Spread my order that no demon is allowed to stop them from leaving from Modu Core City. No one is to chase after him, or his whole clan will be wiped out. The demon god emperor's cold voice broke out suddenly, and his terrifyingly formidable mental force abruptly spread to the whole Modu Core City in a burst. The terrifying might that was unleashed that instant made all the demons in Modu Core City crawl in fear, not daring to budge. Right, their almighty emperor was furious, and almost every one of the demon god emperor's bursts of fury would be the trigger of a calamity. In a fierce wave of his hand, the Star Demon Pagoda closed its gate, and at that very moment, the demon god emperor Fengxiu had to take large gasps to breathe. Looking upwards, his chest undulated violently. These terrifying magic fluctuations made the moon demon god Agar's and star demon god Vasago alert, and they shivered slightly. A demon god emperor in an unstable mood was an absolutely terrifying thing. Even killing the two of them would not be an impossible thing for him. Fengxiu's fists were clenched, and in the end a dark golden teardrop rolled from the outer side of his eye. Opening his eyes abruptly, he looked toward the moon demon god Emperor Agar's. Aren't you baffled that I have just let these humans off? Agar's kept quiet out of fear and didn't dare utter a word. Let me tell you, it is because this young man I have just killed has my blood flowing in his body, and was originally the second successor I had arranged. From the time of his birth, I didn't do anything for him, and until that day I found out about him, I have not even once meddled with him. But he unfortunately concluded a blood contract with Austin Griffin, so I had to personally kill someone in whom my blood is flowing. Do you understand? All I could do for him was to let him die with the least regrets possible. Agars raised his head abruptly, and had an expression full of unbelief. Never did he imagine that this so-called sign of light and human's future hope Long Houchen actually had the demon god emperor's blood flowing inside him. That was the Devil Dragon clan's royal blood. Visago didn't mutter a word from beginning to end. As the one who utilized the great prophecy technique, he was the only one aside from the demon god emperor to be aware of that relationship between Long Houchen and the demon god emperor. Part 1 end here.